Welcome back, guys, to Kerbal Space Explosion. We are currently staring at Jool, the gas giant, the only gas giant in our system, the Emerald of the Sky. I actually don't know if that's a phrase, the Emerald of the Sky, but I do think it has been referred to as being an emerald before. Because it is green, there's actually some speculation that doesn't make any sense, but there's some speculation that the Kerbins originated from Jool because they're green and he's green, and so ergo they must be from Jool. Anyway, it is the the ultimate goal in my Kerbal Space Program journey. It's what I've been looking forward to doing for a long time, and so we are going to tackle it. We are going to send a mega mission to Jool, the final frontier. The final frontier. These are the voyages of Hudhat and Buzz Carmen. Actually, Buzz is still stuck on Eve. Okay, so this is the system of Jool. It has 5 moons. And we are going to do something similar to what we did with Eve. Actually, Eve was sort of a test run of the concept of taking ships, putting them in orbit around Kerbin, docking them together into a super ship, and then sending it to the planet, having them separate, go to their different places, and then combine back together into one ship and come home. That kind of worked the way I expected it. We did not manage to get off of Eve because of the heavy gravity and the soupy atmosphere, but the concept worked. And so we're going to do something similar here, but it's going to be much, much, much more ambitious, because as you can see, Jool, the gas giant, has 5 moons, and although while we cannot land on Jool itself, you'll just die if you try, we can get into orbit around it, and we can send 5 ships to each of these guys. Now, I had this idea some time ago, and I was thinking about it. What does this sound like? You've got 5 ships that look kind of, they're spaceships. That's what they are. I was gonna say they look science fiction-y, but they're spaceships. All right, that's enough information. They're spaceships. We're gonna put them together into one super ship. They're gonna combine, and then they're gonna separate again. What does that sound like? To me, in my head, immediately I thought, that sounds exactly like a Transformer. That sounds like one of the Gestalts, like Devastator and the Constructicons. If you've ever played with the toys from the 80s or seen the cartoons or whatever, you're probably most familiar with Devastator of the Gestalts, who was the combined form of the Constructicons. The Constructicons were 6 construction vehicles who turned into robots, and then they merged to form Devastator, and they beat up the Autobots. And there happened to be one Gestalt, which was the name for the combiners. The definition of Gestalt is something that's more than the sum of its parts, and in Transformer terms, it just means robots that form into a bigger robot. There was a Gestalt called the Technobots, who were scientists. Eh? Scientists! And they formed Computron, who was by far the smartest of the Gestalts. All the other Gestalts, when they got together, they were real stupid. Computron, he was smart, he was a scientist, and so we are going to make 5 ships, and we're going to model them after the Technobots, okay? So I'll just go really quickly. If you want to, you can actually do a Google image search of Technobots, and it'll show you what they look like, but I'll go through it real quick. There's Scattershot, he's the leader, he's kind of the central bigger part. He's a spaceship. Then there's Lightspeed, who turns into a futuristic car. There's Strafe, who turns into a space fighter. There's Nosecone, who turns into kind of like a drill. He's like a tank drill kind of guy. And then there's Afterburner, who turns into a motorcycle. 5 of them. 5 moons of Jool. 5 scientist Transformers. Okay? So real quick, let's go over the different moons of Jool. So this is the first one, Lathe. Lathe has an atmosphere that goes up to 50,000 meters and 0.8 gravity. So essentially, it's like a little Kerbin, slightly less gravity, slightly less atmosphere, but it has oxygen, unlike Eve, which means we can take a space plane there, and we can take off with our jet engines. Now, if you look at it, look at this. Almost entirely ocean. Very little landmass at all, which means landing on it will be a little bit tricky. Hopefully not too bad. There are some land masses here. but there is a heck of a lot of ocean. So we are going to send Strafe. We're going to send Strafe to Lathe because he's a space fighter. So I thought it would make sense to make him the space plane. Then the next moon out is Vol. Vol looks like a ball of ice. It has no atmosphere. It has a gravity of 0.23, so more than the moon, but not too heavy. Let's see. We are going to send Nose Cone, the drill here, because it has slightly higher gravity. Nose Cone and Strafe are going to be about the same size. We'll get into their sizes and what they look like a little bit later, but we're going to send the Nose Cone, the drill there. Then we've got Tylo. This guy is going to be the hardest because he has a gravity of 0.8. Now that's nearly as big as Kerman, or as high of a gravity as Kerbin, the planet. But there's no atmosphere, so we can't use parachutes to land, which means we're going to have to burn a lot of fuel landing on this guy. It's it's like landing on Kerbin almost, but with no atmosphere. It's going to be tough. And then we're going to have to take off. So he will be the toughest one. So we're going to send Scattershot, who is the biggest, who's the leader, who is a spaceship. Makes sense, right? All right, those are the first three. Then out here, in a little bit more of an elliptical, irregular orbit, and off of the plane of the elliptic, we've got Bop. Now, Bop only has a gravity of 0.06, so about the same as Minmus, but it is extremely irregularly shaped, which actually reminds me of Gilly. So it's a combination of Gilly and Minmus. Gravity and shape. Really wonky, weird shape. We are going to send Lightspeed, who is the futuristic car here. So basically it's going to be a rover, but I'm going to try my best to make it look like a futuristic car. We're going to send him there. Then when we zoom out, we've got one left, and that is Paul. To Paul, we're going to send Afterburner, who is the motorcycle. So this has the lowest gravity, 0.038. That's a little bit less than Minmus. And so we're going to send the motorcycle here because balancing a motorcycle... I've never made a motorcycle, but I'm just going to go ahead and assume that balancing it will be a little bit tough. So we're going to send the smallest guy out here to Paul. And then hopefully, if nothing goes wrong, and something always goes wrong, but if nothing goes wrong, they will all combine back into one big ship and go back to Kerbin and collect a lot of science. Okay, so before we can design any of the 5 individual Technobots, we have to design something for them all to attach to up in space, an interplanetary stage. Now keep in mind, this is not a Transformers game, and I don't have any mods installed to allow them to transform. It's not going to look like a big robot in the sky. He's not going to shoot a laser gun. So we're still playing Kerbal Space Program. There are mods, actually, that allow you to make something that kind of changes and transforms a little bit. I've seen some stuff on the Kerbal Space Program subreddit, but I'm not using any of that. I'm not using any mods. This is all stock. So just keep that in mind. It's going to look like the 5 vehicle forms of the Technobots on a ship in space. So keep that in mind. So last time when we went to Eve, we kind of designed our thing like this, where just as a sort of a very rough idea of how we designed it. Let me grab this. Okay, so we had this interplanetary stage, right? It was much bigger than this, but this was basically the layout. We had this interplanetary stage, and on top of that, we put our lander for Eve, which was super duper big. And then on top of that, we put I built a tug to drag things around and go pick things up. And then on top of that, we put the lander for Gilly, right? So this thing it swiveled and wobbled. It was kind of like a rope. It wasn't very stable because of all of these points here. And I've learned from those mistakes, and so we're going to design this ship a little bit differently. Let's put all these away. Actually, I think what I want for the core, we're going to use one of these cores, one of these probe cores. I don't think the big one, though. I think we want this one. Yeah, that's the ticket. So we're going to have something like this, and then we're going to need to attach the different ships to it, but we're not going to... Let's do this. We're not going to just stack them on top of each other like a totem pole or something, because that was extremely unstable. We've learned from our mistakes. So we're going to have one, only one on top, which is probably going to be Strafe, this spaceship. And then beneath it here, let's see, let's get another one of these fuselages. I'm using these guys because they have a high crash tolerance. That means if there's torque put on the ship while we're in space, it should be able to withstand a lot of that torque. And let's see, then we want to do, I'm going to do something like this. And then we're going to have 4 of these guys coming out like this. And then we're going to have these guys on the end. So basically we're going to have 4 sides of our, we'll call it like the chassis. Actually, this big central part, I think I'm just going to call it Computron, because all the different parts of it are going to attach to this. So the combined form will be Computron, right? Which is the name of the Technobots when they form. So one of the problems last time I think I had is that when I tried to dock things, I tried to have multiple connections, kind of like this, where I would, oops, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Yeah, I meant to have something like this. Actually, let's do it like this. Make a copy. I meant to do something like this, where we would have multiple points of connection to increase the stability of the ship. And I tried to line 4 things up like this. I think the problem was I didn't make the different parts identical. They weren't made with exactly the same parts. I think the diameter was slightly wrong. And I used, what, like 7 ports? That was too many. So, we've learned from our mistakes. And so this time, what I'm going to do is we're going to do this, something like this. Pajunk. And like this. And then, in order to make sure that when we make the ships, we're going to take this guy and we're going to make him a sub-assembly. We're going to save him, and then we're going to place him as a central core of all of the 4 ships. So they should attach to there. And there should be no difference in diameters or length. They should be exactly the same length. Let's see if I can even... Let's rotate him. I don't know if I can even attach... Yeah, it won't let me attach it like this. But when we dock them in space, those will be the exact right measurements. And it's only 2 ports. So I think it should line up perfectly. Then we're going to want a little bit of space here. Because I haven't designed the ships yet, so I'm not really sure how much leeway we're going to need. So let's give them a little bit of space. And then under there, we're going to do something like this. And we're going to attach some big old rockets to this guy. Let's move him up here. It's going to need, let's get rid of this. It's going to need RCS ports. I'll save these in a minute. It's going to need RCS tanks, reaction wheels, battery packs, solar panels, all the kind of stuff, lights. It's going to need lights, all the kind of stuff that you think we might need. And then I'm going to put, I guess we'll put, no, we're not putting this. This is the interplanetary stage. So we'll do something like this. Put those on there. Then the quad adapters. Okay, sometimes, I think this may be a bug with the new version. They have a hard time connecting. So what you can do, go back to one-time symmetry, disconnect it, then alt-click it to copy it, or you can just take that piece individually, and then it should work. Okay, so now we've got 4. I'll actually keep that around for additional stages. And we're going to put on some nuclear engines for our interplanetary stage because of their high efficiency, 800 ISP. And we're going to have a bunch of these guys on here. We're going to asparagus stage it up. And the first job, the first thing we need to do, we need to fully design this guy, get him into space, and then design the individual Technobots one at a time and dock them one at a time so that they all fit. And we also have to keep in mind that if there's a guy on this side and a guy on this side, they need to be about the same. Let me line this up a little better. They need to be about the same mass. so that the ship doesn't imbalance itself trying to do anything. And the same thing goes for something on this side and something on that side. They're not lining up very well, but you get the idea. The one here and the one over here have to be the same size. The one here and the one here have to be the same size, so that when the thrust comes from the bottom of the ship, it's balanced and it doesn't fly around in circles, and we can actually get to Jool. Alright, here's the finished product. This is the core of the Gestalt Computron. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Am I throttled up? No. Let's throttle up first. Okay, let me start that countdown over. Holy crap. That's why you check things before you launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch! Yes! So this guy has a mere 883 parts or something like that. Not that many parts, thanks to the new, larger rockets we've got here. The just rolls right off the tongue. S3 KS 25 times 4 engine cluster. This guy is gonna rotate a bit. And someone in the comments actually told me that the reason they tend to rotate when you asparagus stage things is because it's kind of like if you're spinning in a chair with your arms spread out, and then you bring your arms in and you speed up. It's because your center of mass comes in, and so you sort of generate momentum that way. It's kind of the same way with the fuel transferring from the outside to the inside. Has some sort of there's some sort of calculation with the center of mass or something like that, and so it starts to spin, kind of like that same scenario where you're spinning around and you bring your arms in. But it should only last for the first few stages here, and then it should be okay. I hope. So here's the finished product. We've got RCS tanks, we've got lights, we've got reaction wheels, because I don't expect the 5 different ships to all be the exact same weight. I'm going to try to make it balanced, but it probably won't be that balanced. So we need a lot of reaction wheels. We've got the docking ports, we have struts, and then here in the middle, I'm not sure exactly how efficient this is going to be, because we're going to be taking 5 reasonably sized spaceships all together, all the way to Jool, which is kind of far. I've got this little escape pod with, what is this thing called? Not that. The hitchhiker storage container holds 4 guys, and then the 5th one will have to hold on to a ladder or something, or maybe take one of the other ships. I'm not exactly sure. We'll figure it out. And we're still spinning. We are still on this first stage. Holy cow, these things last a long time. Look at that. And we're only up to 3,000 meters, so that's okay. Oh, we've only done 30 seconds of our journey so far. Let's see, anything else to look at? We've got some static solar panels here in case we run out of electrical charge. We do have a lot of batteries, so we've got almost 9,000 total. But it's possible to run out, so it doesn't hurt to have some static ones on here that don't require any deployment. Then we've got the big ones here, and then the 5 ships will also have some solar panels and whatnot. And then we've got all these nuclear engines here on the bottom, which are not activated because I didn't. The asparagus staging wasn't set up properly for them to work at the same time, and they wouldn't be doing that much in comparison to these guys, which are pumping out 3,200 thrust compared to what the nuclear engines put out 60 per engine, so they wouldn't be helping all that much anyway. Let's see, we're all the way up. We're up to 200 meters per second. We're going a little bit faster than is technically optimal in the atmosphere of Kerbal, and that's okay. It's not a huge deal. I don't expect. I believe I designed this guy to have a little bit more fuel than is necessary to get into orbit without using any of the fuel from the nuclear engine tanks. It's got a lot of RCS fuel as well for docking out. Since he's going to be real big. Oh, here comes our first stage here. The other guys are going to be smaller. We're going to try to dock them to it. So they'll be using RCS fuel, but we have a lot of RCS fuel in here just in case, or if we need to transfer some to the other guys. And here comes our first stage here. This should look nice. There we go. Oh, we're lagging the game. We're lagging the game. That 57th second of our journey took a long time. Now we need to start our gravity turn. Where's the 90-degree mark? We're spinning still, so it's a little hard to find. It's over here. All right, we're going to start to slowly move. The lag will hopefully decrease once we get through with this stage, drop all these sections, and we should be left with about 500 parts and change, which does worry me a little bit. I'm going to try to keep the part counts down on the other guys, but it's not going to be totally possible. Oh, and look at this. We're way off. We're way off course. It's really hard to steer this guy. We have a lot of reaction wheels, but it's still really hard. I need to come back to that 90-degree mark. Oh, I'm just holding down to that D key to move to the right. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it. It's no big deal. It'll get better once we get into space. It's these outer guys that make it very hard to steer. Okay, now stop. Oh gosh. Don't go too far. Don't go too far. If we just hold here, we should stabilize enough. Jool itself is on mostly a flat orbit in relation to Kerbal. Translating to it shouldn't be too hard, and I think to help, since we're going to be taking so much weight out there, I think I may try some gravity assists, which may be a bad idea, trying to do some finicky stuff like that with a gigantic ship like this. I'll make that decision once we've assembled everything and figure out exactly how much fuel it'll actually take to get out there without a gravity assist. If I just hold a little bit to the right of this 90-degree marker, it should slowly center. Yeah, okay, I think we're doing okay. And here we are, burning. Whoa, come on, throttle up. Here we are, burning to circularize our orbit. A mere 10 seconds, 400 meters per second of delta V. Oh, I sound so scientific when I use these fancy phrases and terminology. Okay, here we go, halfway there. And basically, it doesn't have to be a perfect orbit. I just want it to be mostly circular to make it easier on the individual ships coming up here to rendezvous. And bloop. Let's see. Whoa. Let's do a speed up. The camera shifted. Let's see what we did. 78.8 kilometers. 74. Okay, that's not quite perfect. Let's see. We're still pointed. Let's do a little correction here. Just without any... Oh gosh, turns so slowly, this guy. After we lose these outer tanks, it'll hopefully become a little bit easier to steer. 75, 79. 79, 77. This isn't the best way to do it. If I wanted to make it exact, I'd be burning right here. So that's almost 80 and 77. That's close enough, I think. That is close enough. So, next thing to do is to get rid of these outer tanks because they're gonna be in the way of the different ships docking. And I put Separatrons on them. They're almost out of fuel anyway. Only a little bit left in there. So, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Stage! Hopefully I lined everything up properly. The Separatrons, ooh, they do their dance of death. If you're gonna explode, please explode kind of farther away than that. I just do a very short burn with the nuclear engines to try to get a little bit of distance from them. Let's take a look at our orbit again. Almost 80,000 and 77. That's close enough. That's fine. That should be no problem. So here is Computron, the core. I think I finally found an aesthetic that looks nice with these new larger parts. They kind of look like big bombs, don't they, attached to the side? So we have a lot of these nuclear engines for our interplanetary trip. We've got these tanks, which will be the first to drop off. And then these outer tanks, which still hold a lot. And then these ones, which hold a lot too. And then if all of that runs out, we've got this little escape pod in the center here, which can detach right there. And the hitchhikers, the 4 guys, can take that. You can't actually steer by this guy. So we have a remote guidance unit there. And did I mention that the Technobots were Autobots? That's right. Transform and roll out. We'll see you next episode, where we start to design the individual Technobots and bring them up here to rendezvous with Computron. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you later. Take it easy. Have a good day. Bye-bye.